57 hours, 9 minutes, 50 seconds. It's almost here. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And today we don't just conclude a week around here. We are concluding the entire breakdown of how this South Carolina Gamecock team will judge itself this year. The measuring stick that they have provided in their practice facility of how they are going to judge themselves this year. We're breaking down the last one. Is this the most important one? It's definitely the most subjective, and that's playing smart football. Preston Thorne, do you think we do smart radio around here?
You know what, Elijah? We try to do some smart radio. That's one of our brands. We want to do the silly stuff smartly and the smartly stuff stupidly. So we're going to try and do a lot of smart radio around here. And this is one of my favorite aspects of playing football because a good team is a smart team. Oftentimes, bad teams are dumb teams. And so we want to look at whether you have dumb players, whether you have dumb coaches. What is the factor that makes this a smart football team? I'm really excited about this topic.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned coaches in there because they're not off the hook either. Like, coaching smart football is also a big thing. This is what makes coaching so important, right? Like, this is what makes Bill Belichick, who is certainly not the most charismatic human being. I can't imagine him being like the greatest of people motivators. Like, there are some coaches that are just great motivators. You know, they're kind of like Jackie Moon in Semi-Pro, where he's like, I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm a motivator. I get people to do great things. And there's some coaches that are really good tacticians, that are really good at manipulating the clock, that are really good at preparing for the game ahead of them. And, like, if we want to put Bill Belichick in that category, I would say that's pretty accurate. Like, he's one of those guys that he coaches smart football. That's what he does. And he gets his teams to play smart football. And that's definitely, I guess, a separator for some of those Patriots teams, especially some of those Patriots offenses. Nobody did more winning in the NFL than them. But they seemingly knew the rule book better than everybody else. They seemingly knew game theory better than anyone else. Again, that's where I've first heard the middle eight theory in my life. The first time I ever heard that referenced was with Bill Belichick. And they certainly were the most prepared team. And they were, some years, not the most talented. Now, in those early 2000s, I'd say those defenses were some of the best we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. But they were methodical. They were efficient. And I think that came from just having an advanced understanding of the game. And very rarely did they just ever beat themselves.
So I'll take your Bill Belichick, and what's the opposite of raise at poker? Is there a thing? Is there an opposite of raise? Because I want to do the exact opposite of that.
Okay. The opposite of it?
Yeah, so we're not going to raise you, but I'll take a coach who's equally known as a GOAT, but who's often known as not a great game manager, and that was Andy Reid. The whole knock on Andy Reid was that, man, he's so good for the whole game, but then those last 2 minutes or the middle eight or the fourth quarter, he just can't seem to get his team managed properly. And that would always be a thing with Andy Reid. He's kind of turned that corner now. But when you hear the analysis of Andy Reid, you always still hear this conversation. And so, yeah, coaches are part of the equation of playing smart football, whether it's having your team prepared to take advantage of, shall I say, loopholes in the playbook. Mm-hmm. I think Bill Belichick falls in that line. Having your team know every possible situation that possibly could happen. You'll see teams, I played for a legendary coach in high school, John McKissick, the winningest coach in South Carolina football history. And, we used to do this thing every Wednesday where we would prepare for situations that might happen in the game. And these things most likely would not happen in the game, but we were always prepared. For instance, taking a safety at the end of the game to do a drop kick. I think we saw that last year, as a matter of fact.
We did, yeah. I think Kai Kroger did a drop kick last year, didn't he?
There you go. So yeah. Those types of things are having teams prepared and playing smart. But then there's also the fun side of being a dummy, because I played for Lou Holtz. So I was very fortunate in my career. I played for two legendary coaches, John McKissick and Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz, after every game, would award somebody with the bonehead play of the game. And this is when somebody did something incredibly stupid on the field, and we would all laugh at it for assuming that we won. It wasn't real funny if we lost. But if we won the game, somebody would get the bonehead play of the game.
Oh, wow. I mean, were you ever awarded bonehead player of the game? I think that's what I'm really curious about now. Now that you have mentioned that story, I want to know if Preston Thorne ever had the honor of getting that award and getting roasted in front of his peers.
I never did receive the bonehead play of the game. I can definitely say that. Not saying I didn't do anything stupid during the game, but again, Elijah, when you're playing in the one technique and there's 16 people around you, sometimes this dumb stuff that you do is not necessarily noticed.
So you're saying what you did could be a little more hideable.
Exactly.
And that's certainly a valuable trait. One thing that we kind of hit on too throughout all of these is like, how can you drill some of these in camp, right? Like yesterday we were talking about turnovers, turnover margin, things like that. The players, when I talked to them, the defensive players talked about how much they did, like the Peanut Tillman punch-out drill, and which, brings some warmth to, my sometimes cold, dead heart whenever it comes to bringing an element of a real game-changing play that Tillman kind of branded for himself when he was playing for the Bears. And now everybody does it. It's wild watching somebody do something that's like seemingly so simple and master it and then be like, oh, we need to drill this for everybody, right? And that's one of the best ways to force a turnover. We saw David Boosie do it against Alabama last year where he just basically sucker punches a football and it comes out against Alabama and almost makes a big play. And he forced 2 turnovers last year, mostly on special teams. You can drill that. There are things you can drill to be able to help force turnovers. There are things you can drill to be able to run the ball and stop the run. And, there's things you can drill to win the fourth quarter, like 2-minute drill, right? Those are very common football things that you can do when you're preparing for a season. But how do you, I guess, throughout the course of a camp, when you got 3 some odd weeks to ramp up for a season, prepare your team to play what we would consider to be smart football?
Well, one, you don't let anything slide during practice, right? If they're doing something dumb during practice, you have to call them on and correct it immediately and tell the team why it's something that's dumb and how it'll help you lose games. So that's the first thing. You got to be very disciplined during practice. And then you put your team in as many situations as possible and you talk and teach them through it. Elijah, I'm sure you've heard the very fake analytic of football IQ, right?
Right. I don't think I've ever seen it quantified for certain players, but I have heard it discussed when it comes to evaluating players.
Exactly. There's no test to measure your football IQ, but we do know that some players understand the game a lot more than other players, and we know that some players are able to act on that during game, and we also know that some players leave a lot left to be desired. And those are the players you have to work with and maybe expose them to as many situations as possible to make sure that when that situation does hit, that they're prepared.
So really playing smart football and leadership do kind of go hand in hand. Now, leadership's not on that board. Can't really quantify that, but leadership, I guess, can kind of show out in ways on a football field that kind of help you play smarter, right? Like the way we mentioned, calling stuff out in practice. Yeah, not yesterday. Wednesday when the defensive players spoke, there was, a few players who were asked about Nick Emenwari and replacing his production, all that kind of stuff, and filling a void, as well as mentioning guys like T.J. Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, Bam Martin-Scott. And one thing that that was a common message was that those guys were vocal locker room leaders, and they just really didn't let stuff that wasn't acceptable fly. And on this defense right now specifically, because that's where most of the roster turnover is where we're really going to see or really have to notice if the team is disciplined, if guys are speaking up, what they're saying throughout the course of the season in terms of who steps up in those types of roles. Because that can be equally important, right? I mean, nothing can prolong. If you want to talk about like third down efficiency, right, on defense, nothing kills a third down. If you get a 3rd and long and you get a stop, a defensive holding penalty or roughing the passer or anything undisciplined, right? Like the leadership kind of helps you eliminate those, and then in turn fixes other certain things on a football field.
Two very strong examples of things that could actually be dumb football plays, right? It could be a roughing the passer. Elijah, I'm so excited to talk about this because the line between somebody being aggressive and somebody being dumb is very thin.
Yes.
And when you see it, there's a roughing the passer where you go, man, that's a tough break. And then there's a roughing passer where you go, no, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's dumb football. I don't know if there's a quantifier for it, but I'm really excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's what makes the discussion fun and kind of difficult at the same time, because I kind of liken it to, former Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart, who, when is ruling on obscenity, on what like obscene content is, and he famously described it as, I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it, right? Smart football can be one of those things that I don't know if I can necessarily explain it sometimes, and I've written down so many different ways to try to explain it, but I certainly, and I think even the casual football fan knows it when they see it, because it might not be something that you can, come up with a ton of examples of like smart football, because sometimes the genius can be within the details and it can be really subtle, but when you see not so smart football.
Oh, Elijah, I'll go even further. I like when you see dumb football. I know what not so smart means, but I also know dumb. And sometimes players lose their mind. Could be a great player, could be a smart player. Sometimes you do dumb stuff on the field. And I love that quantifying metric. I can't measure it. I can't talk about it, but I'm telling you, when I see it, I know exactly what it is.
Yes. And that kind of leads us into our questions for today to answer just kind of throughout the course of the show. Like, what does it mean to play smart football? What does a smart football team look like? How do the 2025 Gamecocks play smart football? But the one we're going to tackle next is finding examples of what dumb football looks like and what to avoid. Because if we can excel in anything here on this program to help you get ready for this football season, it's giving you examples of what not to do. We are great at providing examples of what not to do, and we're going to do that next here on the early game.
Pine Ridge Drive at Charleston Highway, report of an accident there. So be mindful if you're crossing through that area. No other accidents to report. It is Friday, so we want it to be a good day for you. A few showers could pop up, 1 or 2 showers today. 82 for the high, pretty much the same tomorrow, 84. Some thunderstorm activity could be coming in on Sunday afternoon or evening, a high of 83. We'll start off next week in the low 80s, but by the end of the week, we might get back to about 90. Right now, it's starting off not too bad, 71 on 107.5 The Game.
We're talking about smart football here on the early game. And we're in the process of trying to define it. And we're going to give examples of what smart football does not look like. But I think Casey on the Firehouse Subs text line might have given us a good guideline, or at least a good explainer as to what smart football is. He says, might be too simple, but smart football is being composed and disciplined. Dumb football, letting agitation control performance and uncontrolled emotion. I think that covers a lot there. I think that does a really good job of laying out what it is that Shane Beamer and this coaching staff will be looking for when they put something like play smart football up on the practice facility.
There's definitely an element to that when you're talking about smart football and controlling your emotions. I always say football is a game of emotions, but you can't be emotional. Right? So you don't want to do things where you're acting on the natural emotions that happen during the game. So that's a great example of being either smart. For example, there is going to be pushing and shoving during a football game. We get it. Are you going to be the person that pushes the person back and you get a 15-yard penalty, even though you're telling the ref that he pushed you first? We already know how that plays out every single time. Smart football. You get pushed, you put your hands up, and you don't do anything. That is smart football. Dumb football is when dumb football is when that person pushes you, you throw a punch, and you break your hand on their helmet. Now you're being an idiot.
That's like the ultimate, I guess, like ultimate football Darwinism is punching another grown man with a helmet on. Do you think you're going to inflict a lot of damage by punching someone who is wearing something designed to absorb much larger forces of blunt force trauma? I don't think so.
Elijah, I can speak firsthand to this, and it's just football brain takes over, and you forget that you have a helmet on, and your first instinct is to throw a punch, even though you know it's very dumb. I can't explain that. You can ask maybe that's the next thing we need to do when we do our Big J journalism.
Yes.
To ask why football players throw punches, because it's very stupid, but yet we've all done it.
Exactly. See, that's why you want to talk about heads-up football. Now, it really isn't a good example of heads-up football or smart football because these gentlemen did get kicked out of a game. But the Andre Johnson-Cortland Finnegan fight back in the aughts when the Texans and Titans played, it's maybe one of the best football fights ever. Andre Johnson made sure the first thing he did whenever the play ended and they were still tangled up, he took Cortland Finnegan's helmet off and then went to town on him, all right? Then the punching is going to be a lot more effective, right? And I'm sure if you ask Cortland Finnegan to this day that the punches that Andre Johnson threw were some of the most effective he's ever experienced on a football field because Andre Johnson did step one, remove helmet, remove the protection of the player, and then you can inflict as much pain as possible.
Well, that's why Andre Johnson's a Hall of Famer. That's why he is who he is.
Sometimes the genius is subtle, but you just got to be able to find it in other ways. In terms of dumb football, I actually had a good time jotting down some things that just like examples that came to mind of just what cost you games by just being dumb, right? And the first thing I thought of, Chase Claypool, a couple of years ago, this was actually maybe like 2019, I think, because Ben Roethlisberger was still playing. They're down 8 on the road to Minnesota. There's 40 seconds left. He catches a pass on 4th and 1, and after he converts the first down, stays on a knee, looks over the sideline, and is pointing and celebrating the first down. And Trey Turner, offensive lineman, no, not the Phillies middle infielder, runs over and has to pull him up and throw him to the side so they could get on the football and continue to run their no-huddle offense. Perfect example of just completely forgetting where you're at, how much time's left in the game, and what you have time to do and what you do not have time to do on a football field.
I think that squarely falls in the Casey's category of being disciplined and the understanding the categories of the game. Yes, you're being a dum-dum. And that's a perfect situation, Elijah, where if we win the game, then we come back in the team meeting the next Monday, and it's funny and we laugh at it. But if we lose the game because you're an idiot, now we're doing up down the whole practice because you wanted to be an idiot.
Because you wanted to flex a little bit after a first down when we don't have time for flexing. We have time for a no-huddle offense in 36 seconds, because I think it was 36 seconds once he did that. And, of course, in the NFL, clock doesn't stop after a first down. That clock keeps ticking.
I got an example, and this is a generic one. I'll stick with this. It's 3rd and 12. We know it's 3rd and 12. We see the chains that it's 3rd and 12.
Mm-hmm.
You, as the wide receiver, you run an 8-yard out, catch the ball, and go out of bounds.
Brutal.
You are not playing smart football.
Nope.
In fact, you're playing dumb football, as a matter of fact.
Dumb football without that dog in you, too, because you got to realize, hey, I'm 4 yards short of the first down. I have to completely maximize effort here to get to the sticks, right? You absolutely have to continue the play.
Talking about running to the chains. You got to run to the chains. Make sure you get to the sticks before you break. Yes, I'm sure that's something that can you imagine the steam that would come out of Coach Furry's ears if one of the players did that this year?
And I don't want to experience the fury of that man, the fury of Furry. I don't.
Exactly. Oh, no.
It's a big man.
Exactly.
He's jacked.
Exactly. Yes. And he sends a lot of emojis on his tweets, so you know he's serious.
Oh, you absolutely know he's serious. I'm sure if you could sum up Mike Furry into one emoji, it's the one that's got the smoke coming out of the nose.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's Mike Furry.
I love this exercise. Bookmark it. We will now be evaluating coaches based on their emoji likeness moving forward.
If coaches or players were emojis, all right, that is.
Oh, that's solid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me. That one has been written down. Other good examples, too, and this happened in a football game this year, and this was one that might be, I don't want to say applicable to South Carolina later this season, maybe in a year where they're younger, because they did hit the portal so hard on defense that they're replacing a lot, but they're still pretty old, and they have they're going to rely on a lot of freshmen to play the wide receiver position, but it's a situational awareness thing. And last year, I'm using this example of Nico Iamaleava when at Tennessee playing against Arkansas. He was a redshirt freshman, so it was his first year starting, but they're playing at Arkansas. It's a one-score game. It's the last play of the game. I think they had like 6 or 7 seconds. He drops back to pass. You got to get the ball into the end zone. At minimum, you just got to get rid of the ball and give somebody a chance to make a play. Scrambles around, runs out of bounds, and there's no time left. That's one of the dumbest football plays I've ever seen. And I'll give the kid the benefit of the doubt that it's just he got overwhelmed, didn't know how much time was left, and just kind of acted on instinct to get out of bounds. Like in that instance, too, if you're going to run the ball, which is not a smart play anyway, look for somebody to lateral that thing too. Like this is the last play. That ball has to get into the end zone. I think it's like 14-10, I think was the score of that game. You got to get the ball a chance to get that ball into the end zone. And he scrambles out a little bit. He might have gone 6 or 7 yards, Preston. I think they're 20 yards away from the end zone. He might have gotten 6 or 7 yards and goes out of bounds. You got to you have in that moment, you have to know that ball has to leave your hands.
Yes, that's situational awareness. That if you were doing that in live time, the football IQ meter would be dropping rapidly, precipitously, going down and down for your next game. Elijah, I got one that's personal, and it's one that I caps my behind. Let's say for the 6 o'clock hour.
Oh,
It's 4th and 2.
okay.
They come up to the line. Everybody in the stands, the coaches, the players, your teammates, all they're telling you is to watch the ball.
Yep.
Watch the ball. They are trying to draw you off sides. And the quarterback comes up to line and he says, and you jump off sides and you give them a first down.
Oh, that's the worst. That's such an unforced error too, because you know what they're doing. You know what they're doing. You're not fooling anybody. It's like, brother, they're on their own 35. They're not going for this. They're absolutely not going for this. And even nowadays too, like we have data to tell you like what coaches' tendencies are in terms of going forward on 4th down, especially if it's a coach with a low rate of that. You know they're not. Like any Mike Tomlin coach team, when they get to the line of scrimmage, if they're on offense, that situation, you know exactly what they're going to do. And if you still bite on it, at that point, if you're a coach, you're like, what else can I do here?
Again, I can just imagine the bludgeoning that T-Rob would give one of those defensive tackles if and when they do it. And again, it happens at every single level. This happens at high school, college, NFL. Every weekend, some stupid defensive lineman is going to jump off sides when everybody knows that that's what they're trying to do.
We have more examples of what smart football does not look like, including a classic one on our Firehouse Subs text line. We'll do that next here on the early game.
Still working an earlier tie-up, and that would be Pine Ridge Drive at Charleston Highway. 82 for the high today. Maybe just a couple showers could pop up. 84 tomorrow with a few showers. And on Sunday, 83 will be our high. Maybe a couple afternoon or evening thunderstorms. That activity kind of continues into the first part of our work week. Right now it's 71. There's been a little scattered mist, a little bit kind of foggy-ish conditions. So just be careful if you would. Low beam headlights, of course. 71, like I said, on the early game.
All right, y'all. We've been talking about plenty of dumb plays, and we're going to get back to that. But one thing that would not be dumb is to call Cato's Power Equipment, because Cato's Power Equipment has been serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years, and they're not doing dumb plays. In fact, it'd be very smart if you call Cato's, because they offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong. So be smart and swing by Cato's Power Equipment today, or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711. Elijah, are we going to talk about some more dumb plays? Because I got plenty of examples.
Oh, yes. We have a really good submission on the Firehouse Subs text line. Ben Cato, my man, would never commit a penalty like this. Very good organization they have over there at Cato's. They don't do operational penalties, right? But this one is such a good one. This was texted in. Don't have the name of the texter. But he says, this drives me crazy. Coming out of a timeout or a change of possession and getting a delay of game penalty because you can't get the play call in efficiently. And I added to that with him, or her in this text message, and I said, especially if that happens in October, November, watching operational penalties happen in October and November is maybe the most maddening thing you can watch your favorite team do. I almost want to pull my hair out watching any team do it, even if it's a game I'm not invested in. I'll get irrationally angry when I see an operational penalty happen in October, November, as if you haven't been working on this all season long.
I'm looking dead square at you, Marcus Satterfield. Yes, they qualified for every check on that box. We were coming, this is against Missouri 2 years ago at home. We were coming, if you can tell it, I don't think about it very often. And we were coming out all of a kickoff when we returned the kickoff, so we should theoretically have the play ready. We should have our personnel ready. We run out there, we have 14 men on the field, dudes are running back and forth. We end up burning a timeout after a kickoff play. It was the most ridiculous thing. And if I was the AD at that moment, I would have walked down and relieved Marcus of his duties immediately after that.
Immediately. Oh, that's the most infuriating thing. Like that kind of falls in the category of also like, do you know how to count, bro? Penalty, like Derek Dooley has maybe the worst of that in the history of football, where they get a stop, at the goal line against LSU on the road. And they're excited. They think they've won the game. And then you go back and you watch the tape. There's like 16 guys on the field. They basically stormed the field to get that stop. And they didn't need to, because it was a bad snap. Like, it was a loss of like 15 yards because the ball went between the LSU's quarterback's legs. And it's like, oh, you have the game won if you counted properly and sent the correct amount of players out there. Like, that was the perfect example of bad coaching, bad math in terms of just counting dudes, and then also players, not one of them looking out there and being like, whoa, there's way too many of us out here. Like, no alarm bells went off for anybody. Maybe one of the most avoidable dumb penalties in the history of football.
Yeah, really quick counting pointer that everybody can use. You count football, you count the dudes on the field by threes. You go 3, 6, 9, and then there's 2 more. If you have 4 sets of threes, it's too many dudes on the field. So that's a tip from me to anybody else. 3, 6, 9, and there should not be 12.
Ooh, that's efficient. You could do that counting a lot more quickly, I guess.
Don't count by ones because you get confused. So you go 3, 6, 9, and if you get up to 12, there's a problem.
I would say, is it 3, 6, 9? Uh-oh.
Exactly.
Sometimes it goes 3, 6, 9, 12. No! You're yelling to get the Homer Simpson thing. Don't.
That's exactly what it sounds like on the sideline too.
Oh, that also something like substitutions brings up a really interesting point that Preston has made to me before. It's just a question. Actually, not a point, more of a question that was raised. When Dan Lanning did that against Ohio State, is that dumb football, or was that a smart, manipulative tactic to win the game?
That was bending. That was the old Brad Lauren. Let me bend the rules as much as I can. Let me put a stress test on this rule book. And that's something we've always done. For instance, let me go back to my offsides comment. All right, so it's 4th and 1, and we're on the goal line. Elijah, and the other team is going in. What's the penalty for me jumping offsides?
Will be half the distance to the goal.
Exactly. So if I did it once, and I go, now we're 4th and a half, but let's just jump offsides again. What's the penalty going to be this time?
Half the distance to the goal.
Exactly.
And
So
you can only get half the distance so many times before you're eventually just Groundhog's Daying it.
Exactly. So I would always tell my defensive linemen to talk, hey, there's not a big risk if you jump off sides on the goal line, because guess what? There's not a huge penalty. So this is the time where you might want to jump the snap, or you might want to try and time it up, and you might want to try and get that extra. So if you jump off sides, it's not that big a thing.
Yeah, that's what the Commanders did.
Smart football.
Yeah, in the NFC Championship game, whenever the Eagles were on the goal line and they were tush pushing it, they just had somebody jump over the line, like try to time the snap and jump over the line of scrimmage every single time. And I'm like,
and then the referee was like, "Listen, stop that. If you do it again, we're just gonna give him a touchdown." I was like, "You can't do that."
Oh man, Joe's on the line with us right now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines here. Joe, what is your best example of what dumb football looks like to you?
Hey, good morning, Elijah and Preston and Jen. So listen, dumb football is going for it on 4th down and goal and tossing the ball to your defensive lineman to make the throw. That's dumb football. Smart football is when last year when McKnight he noticed that they were about to pull a fake, and he sniffed it out and just shut it down. And one more thing, dumb football is when you're getting ready to kick the field goal, and that one guy is just missing on the line, and everybody has to wave over, "Hey, dude, where you at? Come on, get on the field." Dumb football, man. Great show this morning, fellas. I love listening to you guys, man. Have a great day.
Oh, good stuff, Joe. Yeah, fantastic examples. I love that. I haven't even thought about the field goal one where you're down somebody on the line, because you need every single person there on the line right there. But I think what Joe alluded to with the Demetrius Knight play might have been my favorite football play from last year. Out of all the fun plays that we had in the 2024 season for South Carolina, I think that Demetrius Knight play, to me, was the one where I saw it when I saw the replay of it, and you watched like that subtlety of Demetrius Knight. You can almost see like in real time him figuring it out, cheating over and making that play. That was one of those where I was like, oh, this guy has it when it comes to just being a high IQ player. It was so impressive to me watching that replay.
And that was against Oklahoma, right?
It was. Yep, against Oklahoma. Oklahoma on their own side of the field too. I mean, it's one of those. I think at this point I don't know if it was still 21-0 or 24-0, but it was like a 3-score game still in the first half. Like Oklahoma needed something. So, I mean, there was, I guess, I guess it was a situation where a fake was possible, but he saw something on the line of scrimmage. And that's also smart coaching. You have prepared them for this moment to say, hey, look, this is a big shout out to Joe DeCamillis, saying, hey, look, if you see this from Oklahoma, they have run fakes out of this formation if XYZ happens before the snap. And you could tell Demetrius Knight saw that at the line of scrimmage and immediately acted upon it, and he was there. As soon as that ball got to the player over near the boundary, it was snuffed out and over by that point.
Elijah, can I bring up a potentially sore subject?
Oh, man. Oh, hit me with it.
Kyle Kennard, LSU.
Ah, uh-huh.
It was not a smart football play.
I agree.
It was not. It was not a penalty. I don't think it was a penalty, but it was not a smart football play because the rule states you don't block anybody behind the ball. That is the rule. That's something that they practice, and he did do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, was it a penalty that they called? No, it wasn't blocking in the back. It wasn't, but it was not a smart football play. A smart football play would have been to not make that hit at all.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I noticed the rest of the year? Whenever an interception happened and they were near the quarterback, 2 hands up. That's all you got to do. I want to hit on that play a little more. We'll do that next here on the early game and talk about one of the more infamous plays in the history of this program and talk about if it was smart or not. That's next. All right, we're going to relive this. Trigger warning for South Carolina Gamecock football fans. Kyle Kennard on the play where Garrett Nussmeier had the flop heard around the world. I think we can all agree, not a penalty. But what I will say, and this is a point I made, and I remember getting absolutely roasted for it whenever on YouTube, whenever I had mine and Jack Veltry's post-game video. It did not make a lot of people happy with this.
Which, by the way, those were extremely good post-game recaps.
Oh, they were so much fun. Highlights my weekend, every weekend, is getting on the field with Jack to the scene of the crime and breaking down what it was we just saw. But Jack and I both agreed that while it may not be a penalty, we certainly don't think it is, you still can't give an official a chance to throw a flag. I think you must operate in every game that SEC officials are not good at what they do. That needs to be assumed going into every game. And when the Kyle Kennard play happened, I was like, you opened the door for bad luck to happen, for bad officiating luck to happen. And then the perfect example as to why they may think that in their own room too is because the rest of the season, this is good coaching and smart football, the rest of the year, if you noticed, after every single interception, anytime someone was going to block the quarterback, two hands were up and they were basically just running in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what the quarterback never did? Fought their way around him. And I think you eliminated that from ever happening to yourself again, which is smart.
Right, and that will never happen again on the South Carolina field. I guarantee they're practicing that every single time they do turnover drills and things of that nature. Yeah, so again, it wasn't a penalty, but it wasn't playing smart football. Smart football would have been taking yourself out of the equation. I won't go as far as saying it was dumb because he didn't necessarily lay a hellacious hit on him, so it wasn't dumb, but it wasn't smart either.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was dumb football. It was just not optimal, right? Yes. Sometimes when we talk about luck in football, there's so many ways of creating your own luck, right? In life too, there are ways to create your own luck. That was one of those. You had a chance to maybe create your own luck. A football instinct thing happened, and it just opened the door for something like that to happen, right? If you open the door for anything to enter the room, something can enter the room at any given time. And what people used to around here call the Gamecock curse, saw an open door and said, I'm going to step right in this thing and not allow you to win this game.
Right. Those are things that happen. So again, and Kyle Kennard was one of the best players to ever play in this program, Bronco Nagurski winner. So even he's capable of not playing optimal football at times. But the best part, you said, it was corrected and it never happened again. And so you move on from those types of situations.
Now, Chris on the Firehouse Subs text line got to the one play I really wanted to mention before we got out this hour. He says, Mario Cristobal running one more play versus Georgia Tech. Far greater dumbness is those who didn't know the elbow was down prior to the fumble. Dummy. But here's the thing. Always assume officials are terrible at their jobs. Assume it. Go into every game realizing and understanding they suck. Be prepared for disappointment because they will disappoint you. At this point, if you go into it expecting them to bail you out, that's on you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, sure, I think his elbow was probably down. But at the same time, Mario Cristobal just running the play, right? Just running that play to begin with, opened the door the same way the Kyle Kennard play. You're not intending to get a flag on the Kyle Kennard play. You're not intending to fumble the ball on that Miami play. But doing it opened the door for something to happen, for some BS to happen to you, right? And when Miami ran that play, there are a lot of things that could happen. And fumbling is one of those things. And having the other team get bailed out by a bad officiating review is one of those things. The football gods punished Mario Cristobal for running the play there when all you got to do is take a knee. Play stands. We know what happened to the rest. The rest is history.
Right, and that was a combination of him being dumb and him also being full of machismo, right? Full of ego, and saying like we don't take, because he's on record saying we don't take a knee. That's his thing, I guess. And good luck with that.
I hate that. I despise it.
Right.
We don't take the win when we have it.
Yeah.
We're going to lose this game, and we're going to earn it. We're going to earn this loss when we should not have. Like
I would like to encourage anybody that texts in any potential dumb plays that we might have left out.
Yes, please.
Because I know throughout the rest of this show, things are just gonna pop up in my mind, and I'm gonna have to share them when they happen. So I'm sure you can send in dumb things, or you can send in smart things that happen, because both of them are two sides of the same coin.
That's right, because that's the theme of the entire show. And I love subtle, smart football. We'll continue this throughout the show, but starting second hour of the early game, the hype train keeps rolling, and he's on another watch list. We'll tell you what that is next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work. It doesn't matter. Absolute Glass will take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. And Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Because if you're anything like me and my brother, you probably were doing something very stupid in your house, and you may or may not have broken a window inside your house. And Absolute Glass could have taken care of that before my parents got to us. But that's neither here nor there. So visit Absolute Glass online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
Still working on getting things cleaned up Pine Ridge Drive at Charleston Highway. Also, Main Street near College Street, kind of more Main at Blossom. There appears to be an accident there. So, a little extra patience heading through that area. Might see a scattered shower or two today. 82 is going to be our high. Much of the same tomorrow, 84. 83 on Sunday. That's when we could see some afternoon or evening thunderstorms kind of creeping into the forecast. But right now, it's a little bit, there's just a little bit of like hazy, misty fog going on. It's 71 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We are collectively talking about what smart football looks like, what dumb football looks like. We'll also be talking about the new watch list Lenora Sellers is on, the extension of La Hype Train. You know, not all watch lists are bad. In college football, being on a watch list is a good thing. And we'll tell you exactly which one Lenora Sellers is on here in just a bit. But Marv is on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines right now because Marv wants to continue this conversation about dumb plays. Marv, welcome to the early game. What you got on your mind, man?
Well, it wasn't a dumb play. It was a dumb coaching decision by Spurrier not to go for 2 against Tennessee in 2013.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'll hang up and listen.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Marv, you're touching on something that's also near and dear to my heart. I am a big, especially more so in the NFL, right? More so in the NFL than in college. I think if you get in a close game and your offense is reliable, I like the idea of doubling up your point total if you only are 2 yards away from the end zone. I know things are condensed, but if you have an offense you feel really good about, especially if you have a really good running game or if you've got a sure-handed tight end or a quarterback who's just a smart decision maker, yeah, give me the ball from 2 yards away and give me an extra point added to it, especially late in the game. I'll take that. I can appreciate being aggressive in those situations when you really trust your players.
This is where I would need Elijah on my coaching staff because the 2-point thing, I get flustered. I can't do the math properly. I don't know when's the right time to go, when's not the right time to go. So I would need you in my ear telling me, like, Coach, you need to do this. Coach, we need to go for 2 here because that is something that when I'm watching games, I struggle with trying to figure out. You know how they pull out that big chart and they're looking at, you see the coaches looking at the chart. I would need a live action person in my ear telling me when or when not to do. But yes, I do remember that Spurrier decision, and it ended up costing the game for sure.
I am one of those two. This is like the perfect marriage of what an analytic can tell you and what your vibe on your team is. I think in most situations, like this is where I had a heated conversation with on air when I was in Nashville because we were covering Titans-Texans, and the Texans have a chance to, I think it was that they were going for it late in the game, and they at that point the game was like in the 30s. The Titans defense could not stop Houston. This is when Deshaun Watson was still there, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. That offense was absolutely clicking, right? And they go for 2 late in the game to try to win it, and the pass goes incomplete. And one of my coworkers was completely railing on the decision. And I said, look, you weren't stopping Derrick Henry all game. You weren't stopping A.J. Brown all game. Ryan Tannehill threw for like 300 yards that game. He was having one of his career days. Your defense was atrocious. They couldn't stop you either. And if you get me in a situation with less than 2 minutes left and a 2-point conversion gives me a lead and forces them to have to make a play at the end of the game, I'm going for the win. I'm trusting my offense more than I'm trusting my defense, right? I'm trusting the guy that, for me, has thrown for almost 400 yards in this game. I'm trusting any one of the receivers who have caught for 100 yards because they had multiple. In that moment of the game, from 2 yards out, yeah, I want my offense. I want my destiny in my own hands here. Right? Like, I want to have control, especially in the NFL where the extra point is not from 2 yards away. They've moved that back a little bit. The extra point is less of a guarantee in the NFL now than it ever has before. If I have a really good offense, especially a really good running quarterback that can break tackles, like Lenora Sellers is going to be this year, I'm going to trust that player to get that ball into the end zone from 2 yards out every time. Even if the chart says I might not want to, that's my personal philosophy there. The chart may tell you to. It may encourage you to. But there's also no better feeling as a player, I'm sure, than being like, hey, guys, we're going for the win here. Like, I trust you guys to win it for me.
That vote of confidence is really, really something, even though it may just be totally artificial. That does mean something when your coach gives you that vote of confidence. As you was talking about that, we're talking about Lenora Sellers being on the watch list, a good watch list. He had turnovers last year, but I can't think of anything he did that was dumb on the field last year. Yes, he had to protect the ball. Yes, he needs to work on ball security, but I can't think of any. Can you think of any plays that were just outright like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that with the ball?
No, I think there were some, like in the first game of the year against Old Dominion, I think there was some like hesitation when it came to making certain throws. You could almost tell just from body language and watching him play that there was an element of overthinking. But after that, I wouldn't say overthinking is necessarily dumb. I think that was just somebody who was playing in his first career start and trying to figure it out, right? And trying to figure it out in real time. I think that was something that he needed as a part of his development. I don't know if there was anything that I can come to mind last year that involved Lenoris, especially when it comes to like a passing decision, where I'm like, oh, that was dumb, right? And
that's what I'm saying. I can't think of one either. You know, you think about the idea of, you think about quarterbacks, to move it off of Norris. You know, quarterbacks can do a lot of dumb things. You know, taking a sack when it's absolutely the wrong time, or when you're getting sacked, attempting to throw the ball when either you get a grounding penalty or you get an interception. He didn't do much of that last year.
I think there was one against Alabama, I think, where he was on the ground and he was trying to get rid of it.
He was trying, okay.
I think that was the one. I think now that you mentioned there was that one, right? I think that was it. I can't really think of anything else.
So again, that's why I guess we're trying to parse the difference between, yes, you can make a mistake, but then there's a dumb mistake that you can make. And when you're playing smart football, part of being smart is that you allow for mistakes to happen within a game, because no team, no game is perfect. You just don't want to do the absolute idiotic things especially if you're a person who's in charge of the ball.
Oh, yes. I mean, you are the chief decision maker on the football field, right? Like, that is just you taking care of the ball by not putting it in harm's way or recognizing situations that you have to avoid and getting out of them is such a crucial part of being a quarterback. And I think his ability to erase those, like the Alabama game to me for Lenoris was the turning point moment for him. That was, I think, when the light bulb really came on in all facets. Like, we saw what he could do in a short passing game and what he could do with his legs against LSU before he got hurt. And then it took a while to get back into it. Like the Ole Miss game, I think we all can understand and recognize that he wasn't 100% in that game. And that game also, I mean, the last two texts on the Firehouse Subs text line alluding to the fake punt against Ole Miss as being a dumb play or dumb decision.
Yeah. I'd agree.
And then you get to the Alabama game for Lenoris. That's really when you saw like the light come on, right? Helping engineer a comeback. He made a mistake with fumbling the ball, but then turned it around to get them back into that game, specifically around the middle eight part where they were plus 19. In that part of the football game, you saw him make some crazy throws, like the touchdown pass to Nick Harbor, an incredible throw. It was an incomplete pass, and it hit Gage Larvaday, I guess, like in the fingertips or whatever. That was still an amazing play because he escaped all that pressure and threw that ball on the run, and it traveled about 50 air yards. You then start seeing a little more of what we now know as Lenoris Sellers, really starting in the second half of that game, and after that play where he's going down to the ground, and I think he's trying to get rid of the ball because I remember they reviewed it a billion times and trying to figure out, was the ball going forward or not. The mistakes he did make, I thought he learned from really well last year. And that's one of the reasons why he's on the Davey O'Brien watch list, because those last 6 weeks, he played almost as mistake-free as a quarterback can make while also being able to make plays happen out of nowhere. Part of that maturation process comes from eliminating the dumb plays.
Elijah, we've already peeled off the Band-Aid a little bit with talking about the Kyle Kennard play, and we both agreed that while it was a penalty, it wasn't necessarily he didn't need to do that. It was borderline dumb. We'll give him some grace on that.
Yeah. John K. on the text line says it's a better moment.
There you go. I love it.
Better.
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially being a fifth-year guy, you know better. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
Now, that being said, let's just peel it all the way off, because we talked about one boogeyman. Let's get the other one, the fake punt. Mm-hmm. It was a bad call. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But listen, coaches are entitled to make bad calls. It happens. But what made it a dumb call is that not only the play that was designed is when Ole Miss never took their defense off the field. They were essentially in punt safe. There should have been a timeout called to mitigate the disaster. Instead, they went through with it was a bad call, but bad didn't have to turn into a disaster. And that's where you get into it being dumb.
Yes, yeah. Breaking down this play too. I wish I still had my notepad from that month. I mean, I go through a notepad about once every month and a half. But I remember before that show on Monday, I went back and watched the play. I saw who was on the field for Ole Miss and South Carolina, and I just wrote down height and weight of the players on the field. Just the height and weight, Preston Thorne. And I gave out the tail of the tape, and I said, if you saw this in a formation lined up and you have a yard to go, which team do you think is winning at the line of scrimmage? And it was a no-brainer because J.J. Pegues is out there. That was a big one. I think Ole Miss had about 4 guys that qualify as big uns on the line of scrimmage. South Carolina did not have one. And I don't care how strong some of those guys are. Hunter Rogers, great long snapper. But how much push is he going to get? Because you're going to need him to block up the middle. And guess who he's lined up against? J.P. Pegues. Or J.J. Pegues. Like, that's who he's lined up against.
Yeah, he didn't want no part of that. So, again, it was a bad call. But bad calls are excusable. They happen. It became a dumb call when they went through with it based on, like you said, personnel and play call. There should have been a timeout call, which they had, and they never did. That was the main boogeyman. So I think those are the 2 boogeymen for the season when you look at smart football. One's on the player, one's on the coaching staff. Yeah, because the coaching staff's not completely absolved from it, too. And I know Shane Beamer absolutely wants that one back. Of course.
I think he absolutely wants that one back. Or could it, and especially considering you could have used that trick play or that fake punt at a different time, right? When you're truly catching somebody off guard. Really, the sin, I don't think, is necessarily the call. I don't think a lot of people love faking a punt that early in the game on that side of the field. I understand that completely. But the bigger beef for me was when you saw the personnel out on the field. That's when a change has to be made, right? That's when you're like, oh, I don't like our chances here. Call a timeout. Or
it would have been very smart football to call a timeout then.
Yeah. Or take a delay of game penalty. You have an All-American caliber punter back there.
That's next level smart. Yeah. Let's not waste the time out here. Let's take a delay of game, back it up 5 yards, and let Kai do his thing. That's next level. That's genius football right there.
Sometimes, because when I was thinking about ways to quantify smart football, I thought, okay, penalties, but sometimes penalties are strategic. Like, for one, in college football, pass interference is not a spot foul. It's 15 yards. If someone's throwing the ball downfield and you know you have no chance at making the play, but you are within arm's reach of the receiver, I don't see why you don't grab the jersey and pull him down. Make sure that catch isn't going into the end zone, right? Especially if it's a play that, you know, the other team's running on their own 35. I'd rather them take a snap from the 50 with a fresh set of downs than have a wide receiver waltz into the end zone. If you know you have zero chance of making that play, it is not the worst thing in the world to commit a pass interference penalty.
Yeah, and that might be what you consider a ball IQ play. You know, you live to fight another down. That could be something that you could just when you bring that player in front of the team and film, you say, Coach, you know, Coach might think you're BSing and everybody probably would laugh about it, but it might be the play where you get away with it.
And you might get away with it. That's another thing. You are also inviting, it's the inverse of the Kyle Kennard thing. You are inviting good luck, right? I mean, if you are I forget the Rams player who absolutely just laid out Tommy Lee Lewis for the Saints in the NFC Championship game, which is the worst no call in maybe the history of football. You know, he had no chance at making that play at all to catch him and make sure that first down wasn't happening. The only option he had was to spear him and make sure that ball didn't get to him and live with the repercussions, right? He did it, and the best case scenario happened. They didn't call it. Sometimes they just won't call it because sometimes officials are just inherently bad at their jobs because football's a hard sport to officiate.
And to go back to again my love affair with Pete Carroll, his philosophy, defensive philosophy is like, hey man, they're not going to call them all the time. They can't call them all.
Yep.
So let's just be aggressive out there.
Smart football play. We'll continue the discussion on smart football and the ACC actually doing something really cool. We'll tell you what that is next on the early game.
One accident in downtown Columbia to make you aware of, Main Street near College Street. And could see just a pop-up shower or two today. Definitely not going to wash out any plans. 82 for the high today, 84 tomorrow. Much of the same as far as your forecast goes, a shower or two. Increased chances of afternoon and evening thunderstorms come in on Sunday, where we're looking for a high of 83. And getting into the beginning of the work week, be low 80s, but increased chances of scattered thunderstorms. So rain isn't totally out of here yet. Kind of have a misty thing going on right now, 71 on 107.5 The Game.
Before we get into the really cool thing the ACC is doing, because this actually is really neat, Preston Thorne, I forgot to mention, we've been on air for almost an hour and a half now. The king of dumb plays. I mean, like the Mona Lisa of dumb plays. A freeze frame of this play should absolutely be kept in the Louvre and absolutely should be behind enough bulletproof glass to be able to ensure its protection for the rest of time. And our friend Langston Moore had a front row seat to it. And that's Dan Orlowski, straight up giving up 2 points because he forgot that there are sideline, or he forgot that the end zone ends and that there is a big white marker there to differentiate what is inbounds and what is out of bounds, and gave the Minnesota Vikings the easiest 2 points in the history of football.
Again, man, I think Langston's career is like Forrest Gump of the NFL, man. It's like all these wild moments. So like, I was there too. When you play on a lot of bad football teams, some interesting things can happen. And from what I understand, yeah, that was very unlike Dan. But apparently it just got to him. I think was that Jared Allen that was chasing him?
It was the NFL all-time safety leader. No one has had more safeties or is responsible for more safeties as a defensive player.
Did he get credited with that one? Or who got that one?
You know, I want to go back and look at the box score and see if he actually got credit for that, because it would be very unfortunate. This would be like a Brett Favre giving Michael Strahan the sack record type deal, but this time it's unintentional.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you just give him son, what are you doing, son? Come on, man.
And it's even proof that smart people can do dumb stuff.
Yes,
I like Dan. I think Dan's a really good analyst. I love listening to Dan Orlowski. And
according to Langston, sneaky good athlete.
Good
very
hooper.
Solid athlete.
Apparently he can ball. He's like 6'6". Yeah, he's a hooper. If he's got a good jump shot, maybe he could have played at UConn basketball instead of football. He could have helped them win another national title, as if they don't have enough of those already. But it's proof that even the brightest of us can commit the dullest of sports atrocities. And Dan Orlowski did that. And I can't believe it's taken us this long to get to that. And I've had it written down. I have it written down on a sheet of paper, Preston Thorne, and it still took me until 7:24 to be able to mention it. But the one thing I did want to get to in this segment, because the ACC is doing something really cool. And they're going to, this year, whenever there is a replay review, you will get the audio feed of the discussion going on to determine what the ruling is. This is from awfulannouncing.com. Starting this season, ESPN's Friday night ACC games and ACC Network's primetime Saturday broadcast will let viewers hear the real-time deliberations between the on-field referee, the press box replay official, and the league's command center in Charlotte, North Carolina, according to David Teal of the Virginian Pilot. It's a first for college football, and it stems from two wildly confusing Miami games last season that left fans, coaches, and broadcasters all wondering the same thing: what just happened? And I didn't get to see it this year because we were on air when the presentation started. But last year at SEC Media Days in Dallas, John McDade, the head of SEC officiating, did a whole presentation, but he lets you listen to one of those plays. It was a play between, I think it was Ole Miss and Auburn, where there was a long pass down the field, and they were trying to determine if the receiver had possession of the ball and had a foot in bounds. And he went through and replayed the entire feed, the entire discussion. And it was so fascinating to sit in there and listen to everything that was going on in terms of what's being discussed. Because sometimes my biggest gripe with officiating replay review is what's taking so damn long, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you see something and it's clearly not indisputable, or it's clearly obvious what the call needs to be. But then you go back and you hear them talk about it, and it's, okay, well, now we got to replay this again. We got to see how much time is going to be. Okay, we have determined that he has possession of the ball. Does he have a foot in? Okay, we've determined he's got possession of the ball. He's got 1 foot down. Now we have to determine how much time is left on the clock. Okay, now we've got the time of the clock. Time on the clock, correct. Now we got to know where the ball is. Now look where his foot is. Okay, that looks like that's at about the 40-yard line. We're going to spot it at the 40-yard line. And they go so thorough when they talk through all of this that it did give me an appreciation of the process itself. Even if it can be infuriatingly long sometimes, I did appreciate the process of getting to listen to how they got to the conclusion they did.
Well, I'm actually impressed with that, because for me, I'm just wondering, are they talking about, hey, so after the game, where's dinner? I think I'm really hungry for this, and I just assume they're doing more of that.
Yeah, good afternoon, John. How's the kids?
Exactly.
Tim had a great baseball game the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just seems like it takes forever. So that is really good insight.
Well, Jen, it made me think of some of the insights you get between in NASCAR that you get between the cockpit and the drivers and the pit, where you get this really interesting insights into the conversations that are actually being had in these really high pressure situations.
That's true. And then there's a lot of fun ones. There's some that are more listenable than others, some that are for an adult audience. Yeah.
Some that's not FCC appropriate is
Correct.
What you're saying.
Pretty much.
Yes. So there has to be some heavy editing.
So it is kind of fun to see behind the scenes. We just see one thing, but really pulling back the curtain is kind of fun.
Yeah. And even on principle, I think it is a level of transparency that we just don't get a ton in sports, because a lot of sports organizations, whether it be the NFL, MLB, any conference in college football, they will oftentimes bend over backwards to protect their own publicly, right? This level of transparency at least allows for us to not have a controversial replay review like we had in one of those Miami games they're talking about, is that Miami-Virginia Tech game where it seemingly was Virginia Tech catching a Hail Mary at the end of the game that would have won them the game. They went to replay review. It did not win them the game. Miami wins, and we didn't get a ton of answers as to why. And there wasn't like a pool reporter or anything like that. We didn't get a ton of answers. And even if there is a pool reporter, you can then massage a message a little differently. But if we hear it in real time, we get the explanation as to why. You can agree or disagree, but you're at least getting that explanation.
You said the magic word, transparency. And I think this actually does well for the referees, because now they can invite everybody into the process and kind of be like, hey, man, this is hard. I'm not sure if y'all understand how difficult this actually is, and listen to all, like you said, all the factors that we have to break down when it comes to making a call that you think should be made from your couch at a leisurely pace. This is a difficult thing to do. So I doubt that it will engender more empathy for the referees, but maybe it should, because it is going to give you an insight into their process.
Yeah, it certainly will. And I think that's just better for the overall health of the sport in general. Again, whether people agree or disagree of what the call was made or the rationale used, it at least explains to you why, which I think is something that's craved by a lot of football fans. And if you're a football fan and you are craving more lists, because this is what the offseason's about, David Hale from ESPN had an interesting list where he put teams in college football, all 136 of them, into tiers. And I think I have some other tiers that he could have added that you could have put South Carolina in multiple of them. And we'll discuss what those are next here in the early game. The theme of today is smart and dumb football. And in terms of smart and dumb decision making, if you are really needing to fix that roof, find some protection for your home or business, the smart play would be to call Midstate Roofing, because they've been doing this for nearly 30 years. Like my entire lifetime, Midstate Roofing has been helping people ensure the safety of their home or business, which is incredibly impressive longevity on its own, because it doesn't matter if it's a high-rise or hospital or if it's manufacturing to industrial. What Midstate Roofing does is design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee. And when you're looking for something to provide you protection for, again, like a home or business, a guarantee is the best thing that you can get. Give them a call anytime at 803-356-1919, because you can speak with a technician on call after hours, or call them during hours and speak to one of their technicians. 803-356-1919. If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Main Street near College Street, we have an accident to let you be aware of. Also, Main Street near Monticello Road. So, a couple areas of slowdowns to expect. 82 is going to be our high today. Going to see maybe a couple showers. 84 tomorrow with a couple showers. 71, a little bit of mist in some parts of the Midlands. And like I said, 71, so not too bad of a start to your morning on 107.5 The Game.
Oh, it's getting closer. Football season's almost here, but what's even closer than the start of the season is the Game Summer Golf Classic. That's Friday, August 22nd, just a few short weeks away. Tee time, 9 a.m. Registration will start at 7:30 a.m. It's $400 for a team, and if you're interested, just call 803-755-2000 and press number 2 to sign up. And there's going to be food provided. Food and drinks, because there'll be onion sausage for breakfast, a mimosa bar from Saki's Wine and Spirits, and then Firehouse Subs for lunch, and of course, prizes and the golf gun. That sounds like a lot of fun. And some of the most fun I have in the college football offseason is breaking up teams into specific tiers and categories. And as Jen would say, I need to get a life because I love doing that way too much. Sometimes touching grass would be something that would benefit me.
Yeah, there's maybe a little nerd alert there. What do you think, Preston?
Hit the button, Jen. Nerd alert.
Oh, man.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go.
That might be the best advice I think I could get, is to go outside and maybe touch a little grass. Wouldn't be the worst thing for my overall.
Little feet on the earth.
Yes, overall health and well-being. But David Hale from ESPN, a sicko like myself, went through and tiered all 136 FBS teams. And I went through the entire thing just so I could see where Middle Tennessee State was at the bare minimum, and I don't like it. But there's an interesting one that he's got South Carolina in, right? So he starts off by having Tier 1, which he says is a great matchup for Week 1 and or the championship game, so Ohio State and Texas. Has like a Tier 1B, which is the rest of the best, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State. And then Tier 2, teams with playoff expectations, so Alabama, Clemson, Miami, Michigan, Notre Dame, LSU. And now we get to the one South Carolina is in. Tier 3, someone in the SEC has to lose games too. So he's got South Carolina with Florida, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. And his rationale here is that the SEC is built for cannibalism, right? It's built to beat up on itself. And that's why they harp so hard on, strength of schedule really needs to be considered when fielding the college football playoff. I find that one interesting because it's not ruling out South Carolina, but it's putting them in a tier of a bunch of teams that I feel like are really evenly matched. Again, Oklahoma on the schedule for South Carolina. They're in this tier. So is Ole Miss. So is Texas A&M. 3 games I think that we could all identify as coin flips, except for Preston, because I think you're a lot more confident about the Oklahoma game than I think I am.
Yes, I think I am. As for now, this might change when I see John Mateer in the Traveling Roadshow after a couple of games. But for right now, I'm confident in that one.
Yeah, and in terms of what this does for South Carolina's perception of what people think of them and getting into the playoffs, I think that might be one of the reasons why people are so hesitant. Even if South Carolina has more of a favorable SEC schedule than some in the league, which I think they do. I think they get a good draw of home games. They have a couple really tough road ones, but there are worse. But I think this puts it into perspective of the amount of variance we can see this season. This could be a really good football team that still ends up going 8-4, right? And if they don't meet the goal of getting into the college football playoff, you can still have a really good team and not make it. And I think that's why we are seeing maybe some hesitancy with some in the national media. Some, because Greg McElroy recently did not have South Carolina in his top 25 either. But I think that's one of the reasons why you
put
see
him on the board, Elijah. Put him on the board. Put him right next to Brett McMurphy. We got 2 up there. Who else wants to get on the board?
Yeah, who else wants to be the public enemy around here, right? Those 2 guys, definitely it. But if I'm tiering teams in college football and I'm making my own, the one that I think South Carolina would fit, because I like breaking them off into, legitimate title favorites, title contenders. I like putting teams also into spoiler categories. And I think South Carolina could be the ideal spoiler team. Even if they don't make the college football playoff, this team all over it has spoiler written on it because of what you got at quarterback, because of what they did last year in playing spoiler for some teams. And really, if it wasn't for Syracuse coming back from being down 20-something points against Miami, they would have spoiled it college football playoff chances for Clemson. They were able to help, backdoor their way in there because of Miami absolutely blowing it on the road. South Carolina can be a spoiler team. And I think that might be a pretty accurate way of looking at the outlook of the season.
And I don't mind that role. I think that's a fun role. That's a fun position to be in as a fan, because we know anytime we're coming into an opposing team's building, they're nervous because they might be like, man, watch out. That South Carolina team can be a little squirrely. I like that feeling as a fan. But when you say spoiler, and I'm thinking about the schedule, you can only spoil it for teams that are in a higher class than you. Am I correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
All right. So would that be Alabama and Clemson for our schedule this year?
I would say Alabama, Clemson, and you could spoil it for LSU too, because look.
Yes.
LSU loses to Clemson, which I think they will to start the season, and then they host South Carolina, and LSU's got to play Florida too. Now, DJ Lagway's health is going to be the difference in whether or not that game will be competitive or not. But let's say Lagway plays. It's not a gimme game, and they at least have that at home in Baton Rouge. Let's say they lose that first one to Clemson. They beat Florida. South Carolina comes in, and let's say South Carolina's 5-0. And Carolina goes into Death Valley and wins. Brian Kelly might be in some trouble. Then you're really spoiled. Then you could potentially spoil the party for 3 different teams, which at that point, if you're 6-0 after that game, then you are considered a playoff favorite and maybe a team that can really scare a lot of people, if that were to be the case.
So to work through your tiers, do you have anybody else in the spoiler category would qualify with us, or are we squarely that team?
I think South Carolina's in it. I think Oklahoma could be in that as a spoiler, because I don't see them as having college football playoff aspirations, but they are good enough to ruin it for somebody. They could ruin it for Texas, right? That's a rivalry game, and one of those rivalry games where anything can happen. They can absolutely be a team that spoils it. I can see Missouri being a good spoiler because they get Alabama. They get Alabama at home as well. And teams that are just really frisky, they're all in that middle class. Auburn potentially a spoiler. I think that one's more of a potential spoiler than a team that will spoil a season for somebody. And then if you look in the Big Ten I think is full of them. Like Illinois is playoff contender and spoiler kind of at the same time. Southern Cal can maybe be in that. I don't want to put anybody in the Big 12 because I think they're all, again, pretty good. But in the ACC, Georgia Tech might be king spoiler in that league.
I like that. Yeah, I was going to disqualify USC from that just because of the name brand. I think one of the key parts of being a spoiler is people in the rest of the country have to say, look at them.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's surprising. When they beat somebody.
It has to be a little bit surprising to the rest of the country. Now, folks in the Big Ten or the SEC or even the ACC might know about those. Folks in the Big Ten do know that Illinois is going to be good this year. Folks in the SEC know about the hype train. Folks in the ACC know about Brent King and run the ball. They get that. But maybe the rest of the country is not necessarily paying attention.
Exactly. It'd be easy to not pay attention to Georgia Tech, right? They do kind of live in college football anonymity at times. They have a very distinct brand of football. Brent Key has beaten teams that people thought he shouldn't. Like, he may be one of the best coaches when he's an underdog in the country that people just don't talk about enough. And there are a couple teams in the ACC with playoff and title aspirations, like Clemson and Miami, that they can absolutely ruin it for. So they will have the opportunity to do this as well. And a good spoiler has to be good, under the radar, and have opportunity. And that's why there's so many teams in the SEC that can possibly fit that bill. Last night, we had some NFL preseason action. The most predictable thing in the world happened, but also in training camp with one of the most popular teams in America. People are getting duped, and we're going to tell you about all those to round out hour number 2 of the early game. There are some people in life, and it doesn't matter if it's in football, any sport, or just, folks have all the potential in the world. And sometimes you hit a realization, it just may never happen because I can't get you to show up. Anthony Richardson might end up being one of those people. Now, he showed up last night to Baltimore. He was with the team. Roll call was made, and he said here, voice didn't crack in anything. And he played, but had to leave the game with a finger injury. Yet another injury that has kept Anthony Richardson out of any type of playing time. He has not completed a full season of NFL action. And with someone with all the athletic potential in the world, where it really shouldn't be a competition between a guy who was taken top 5 in the NFL draft to be your quarterback and a guy who was also a top 10 pick with Daniel Jones. Like, this shouldn't be a competition, right? This should be the guy that you have the investment in should be the better player. The younger, more athletic, stronger arm player should be able to handle the fundamentals to win this job. But now it's legit competition because Anthony Richardson, once again, is hurt. Grass is green, water's wet, and the sky's blue.
That's a great point. I was going to take it back even further. Now, did he ever complete a full season at Florida?
I don't believe he did.
Okay. So this is why I want to make a distinction. I want to make clear that we're saying this. We're not calling. We as a show, we will never call somebody soft.
No,
because that's a character judgment.
Yep.
And that's not something that we're doing. That's not what we're doing. However, people can be injury prone, meaning they tend to get injured more often than the average player. Anthony Richardson is obviously injury prone. We're not going to make a character judgment and say he's soft. It's not for us to decide.
Nope.
What we can say is that he gets injured very frequently. Legit injuries, but they happen often.
And I went back and looked at it. He did complete the season in 2022 at Florida.
Okay. All right.
So that is the one complete season he had. In 2021, he did play 8 games. And then he wasn't a starter his first year. I think he redshirted in 32 passes. But
the thing that's most concerning about the injury last night is that it was basically self-inflicted. If you watched the game, I hope you didn't watch the game, honestly. But if you saw any of the clips on social media, essentially what happened was because of his error in identifying a blitz, you can get football nerdy here, but they had an empty check that he did not identify the blitz. He did not call out the blitz, and he slid the protection the wrong way and basically opened himself up to a man having a running head start to put his helmet into his chin. And he broke. Luckily, he only broke his pinky because the dude had a free shot on him. But it was essentially a mistake that was made by Anthony Richardson. So it's kind of a culmination of two things: one, him being injury prone, and two, him missing reads, which is something that was a prop that has been an issue with him.
It has, and it kind of shows that there hasn't been enough development. And part of not being able to develop is because you're not available. And he has missed a ton of time as a quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, really stunting everything that he's trying to develop.
That being said, there is another quarterback who's making waves in the preseason, right, Elijah?
Yep, Milton Mania. You knew this was going to happen. You knew Bazooka Joe was going to take some people by storm because I guarantee you, majority of Dallas Cowboy fans were not watching the Tennessee Volunteers in 2023. I can promise you that. I can promise you they were not watching in 2022 or when he was at Michigan before that. Guarantee it. They did not watch what Joe Milton did. Drafted in the 7th round, plays for the Patriots. Preseason darling last year because he made a couple of really cool throws, and the legend of him being able to throw a football, like 90 yards in the air or whatever cartoonish thing it is. Don't realize over the a large sample size that Joe Milton can throw the football a mile away. He can also throw it a mile over your wide receiver's head. That's kind of an issue. And he's made a couple throws in training camp, and it's one of those, it's a camp darling because the video clip gets out, it goes viral, and people get really excited, like, oh, wow, if Dak Prescott doesn't play well, we got this stud behind him. I'm here to tell you right now, Dallas Cowboy fans, you don't want no part of this. You don't want no part of this. The Joe Milton experience is not something that you want. I know he's freakishly athletic. I know he's got an alien arm. But let me be Tim Meadows' character in the movie Walk Hard, and you can be Dewey Cox, and I say, you want no part. This is Joe Milton, Dewey. You want no part of this mess. You want no part of this.
I know you're very familiar with this with your Tennessee roots. I know you're very familiar with this. But I really got introduced to Joe Milton at that 2022 game where Hendon Hooker got hurt, and I just saw Bazooka Joe on the sideline, and I was nervous. I was like, "Yo, who's this guy?" I saw him throwing on the sideline. I saw the way he looked and the way he threw. I was like, "Man, we might have messed up."
It looks the part. It looks the part.
This continue. Quarterbacks can fool people, man. There's a couple of. I think Will Levis falls in this category of dudes who we're gonna give people a chance because they look the part. Mm-hmm. And Joe Milton has a bazooka arm. He throws balls far and high. Somebody's gonna fall in love with that, and it has not worked out yet in his football career.
Nope. Betting on Joe Milton, maybe not the smartest play. Getting duped by social media videos, definitely not smart. We continue the discussion on what is and isn't smart football next on the early game.
It's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Kitchen. Yeah, we had to pretty much take it down to the studs after a flood in there. Was not a fun time, but CHW Cabinetry certainly made it a whole bunch better. Once we figured out what cabinetry we wanted to put in, they gave us the photorealistic rendering, and I've talked about that. I actually posted some pictures on Twitter not long ago just so you could see how close that was to what the actual kitchen was going to look like, which is great because we could take the picture and then we could go pick out everything else that we needed to get to finish out the kitchen. Pantries, they can update those. They can put in drawers. You don't have to just totally have a kitchen redone. They can give you a lot of different options for a little more functionality. They can do that in a closet. Maybe you have a home office workspace that you're trying to create. They can help you with that as well. CHWCabinetry.com is the place to go. Call them at 803-520-6837 and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Accident reported Atlas Road at Garner's Ferry Road, also Highway 321 near Glen Road. You'll find a slowdown. In Lexington, Old Cherokee Road near Old Shaven, kind of more at Silver Creek Drive on Old Cherokee that you will find an accident as well. So just a little extra caution this morning would be appreciated. And as far as forecast goes, yeah, we're still kind of in a little bit of a damp pattern. Looking for a high today of 82. A couple pop-up showers could happen. Same for tomorrow with a high of 84. Maybe an afternoon or evening thunderstorm, more likely Sunday and Monday. Sunday's high 83. There's still a little bit of scattered mist in some parts of the Midlands. It's 71 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We are talking about what is smart football, what is not smart football, because this is the final thing that we'll be breaking down this week in terms of the things that South Carolina has put up on the wall in the indoor practice facility as ways that they're going to define their success this year. What are they trying to accomplish as a football team to achieve wins and losses, or achieve wins? You can achieve losses, I guess, if you really try for it. Some teams in the NFL certainly do that. But to achieve the wins that are required to get you into the college football playoff. And the fun one today, playing smart football. And we've been giving some fun examples as to what smart football does not look like, because that might be more fun than telling you what smart football looks like. And we've gone through 2 hours. We've mentioned Dan Orlovsky. We've mentioned Derek Dooley. We've mentioned all types. Chase Claypool, right? We have even mentioned 2 examples of what smart football maybe didn't look like for the Gamecocks last year. But we have not mentioned maybe the best dumb play in the history of football, and that's Leon Lett. Preston, take it away. As a defensive lineman, you have to speak for your brethren in terms of what may be the most unforgivable player sin in football.
Well, here's the thing. Leon Lett is the rarest of cases where he's an actual 2-time offender on the all-time dumb plays list. So the one was, and the thing about Leon Lett's plays is that they happen on major stages. So obviously, one being where he recovers the fumble against the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl when he's running. He starts hot dogging, and here comes Don Beebe, but from behind him, strips the ball as he's going into the end zone. He fumbles. It didn't have a bearing in the game because the Cowboys won, but it's one of the all-time don't do this type of plays. That's one. And then the second one was on Thanksgiving, where the Cowboys are going to win the game, or the Dolphins are kicking the field goal to win. The Cowboys block it. Everybody's celebrating. Leon Lett's not celebrating. He thinks he's going to make what he thinks is a heads-up play by recovering the fumble. He doesn't recover the fumble. He fumbles his recovery. The Dolphins recover, kick the field goal, and win the game on Thanksgiving when everybody's watching it. The rare two-time all-time dumb player, dumb mistake. And here's the thing about Leon Lett. It's a shame because he was really good. But this is unfortunately his legacy.
You know how I know a play is all-time dumb and how it can ruin how people think of you? And even a game in general. When you think of that Super Bowl, you don't think about Troy Aikman throwing for a ton of yards. You don't think about Emmitt Smith. You don't think about Michael Irvin. You don't think about just the total 4-quarter tail kicking that was that Super Bowl. You don't think about the win there. And this is the Super Bowl. This is not a game in September. This is the Super Bowl. And the only play people, or not maybe the only one, Cowboy fans probably remember a lot of it because you haven't done much really since those 90s teams. But the play every casual NFL fan that's ever watched NFL films or anything like that, the only thing they remember from that Super Bowl is Don Beebe making the hustle play to smack the ball out of Leon Lett's hands before he gets into the end zone. And the game was decided by 30-plus points.
Nobody ever remembers that. Why? Hey, I told you this was going to happen. We're just going to keep remembering. While we're here, the Gamecocks had an offender similar to this, and I can't remember the player's name. It was from maybe Shane's first year. I don't want to call the wrong player's name, so I'm gonna refrain. I'll come back to that later. But he had the classic blunder of the Deshaun Jackson variety, where he was going to cross the end zone, drops the ball before the end zone, threw the touchback, and I think he even got on ESPN's Come On Man. I think he was even featured on that. I don't want to call the wrong name. I have the name, but I don't want to call it. But that was another classic of, hey, son, you're being dumb right now.
It's funny that I was actually sitting here trying to think who that was because I was remembering that play, and that was like, dude, what are you doing?
Infuriating.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
it's like, hey, all you have to do is take 3 more steps and get in the end zone, please, before you drop the ball.
And then be a hot dog and drop. Yeah,
yes.
But he was just so cool. Like, I'm just going to drop the ball. It's like, yeah, you didn't cross.
It's amazing how many times that has happened at big stages, and players still do it. You've had
it's going to happen. It's going to happen this year. It's going to happen.
Oh, it will absolutely happen this year. Like, the first time I remember seeing something like that happen was Georgia's Mikey Henderson did it against Western Kentucky in 2006. And his might have been the most egregious because he didn't just drop it like at the goal line. He was about 2 or 3 yards away from it when he dropped it. No. Like, it was so blatantly obvious. He did not get in to the end zone with the football. And at this point, it's bad that coaches even have to address this, but I think if I was a coach at one point at the very beginning of camp, I show a compilation of these plays. And I think Deshaun Jackson might have been a 2-time offender of this as well.
He was definitely a 2-time offender. Definitely.
And show them the Deshaun Jackson plays, the Mikey Henderson play, the Carolina play early in Shane's tenure that we alluded to, and say, we're going to have a team rule. The team rule is that if you are running into the end zone, pretend the back of the end zone is the goal line.
It's like track. Like track. You run through the line.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to drop the ball and hot dog it, okay, cool. Do it in the back of the end zone once you've already gone about 6 yards into it.
Because otherwise you'll get the hot dog award, and you don't want that. That's kind of like the award Preston was talking about that Coach Holtz would give.
Oh. Yeah, if you weren't here for the 6 o'clock, Coach Holtz would now, again, this was dependent on if we won, so it was a lot better when you win, but he would give a bonehead play of the game award, and it was all fun and games when we won. It was not a lot of fun if we lost and you were receiving the bonehead play of the game.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So maybe that should be brought back. Hopefully we won't need it, but
maybe we could probably as a show give it out to other teams around college football whenever we see it.
I think that's a really good idea
because
put a pin in it.
It happens to a lot of teams, right? Where somebody just makes a incredibly boneheaded play to either cost your team a game or a first down or anything like that. That's up there. And I think out of all the ones we've alluded to, that one might be the worst. Like operational penalties that happen in October, November, like getting to the line of scrimmage, getting the play call in, Marcus Satterfield, and doing, face mask penalties or hitting a quarterback well after he releases the ball. That's all dumb and frustrating. But not holding onto the football when nobody is around you as you're entering the end zone is in a category of its own. I feel like that is like the ultimate separator, right? Some things you can maybe explain away. Like the Dan Orlovsky thing is hilariously bad to watch on television. Somebody I think it was the YouTube stream mentioned the butt fumble. That one's just funny. That was just
the butt fumble was just funny, man. It's just like it wasn't a dumb play. It was unfortunate circumstances, but yes. I can't consider that a dumb play.
Yeah,
it's funny, but not dumb.
Exactly. Maybe Mark Sanchez didn't realize, how caked up the offensive lineman was and the force that he was running into. But dropping the ball before you get into the end zone, next level, just absolutely next level.
Right, and if you want to be a good team, you don't do dumb things like that. You celebrate when you're supposed to celebrate. You celebrate accordingly. If you remember, it was one of my favorite moments from the season last year. Remember when Lenore scores the touchdown and he gets that perfect spin on the ball? Mm-hmm. And then I think it was Torricelli comes and picks the ball up real quick, like, hey man, not too much. Let's celebrate and get on through. Let's not get a penalty here. That was one of my favorite. That was an example of smart football.
Reg on the Firehouse Subs text line, something really similar to that. He says, note, if you rewatch the Sellers' infamous touchdown late, fourth quarter against Clemson, he almost throws the ball into the stands and holds on to it. The extra point was important, and I don't know how he restrained himself. I mean, your natural inclination to score a touchdown in that moment against that team in that stadium, I'm sure he wanted to throw that sucker into the parking lot or hit a fan or something. I don't know, right? I mean, the fans are pretty close.
He probably would have launched that thing a million yards out of the stadium, but he was restrained and smart. That's a very good pickup.
Yeah, and having that voice in your head say, hey, buddy, hold on to this. Because who knows what happens if you get a 15-yard penalty and you have to make the extra point a little bit longer. That is kind of going back to what we alluded to earlier with the Kyle Kennard thing, right, in the LSU play. Don't open the door for an official to make a decision whether it is right or wrong, right? I mean, if you give them something to rule on, there is a literal possibility they rule in a way that is not favorable to you. Create your own luck. And that also just that reminded me, too, of maybe one of the more infamous SEC plays. And because his NFL career hasn't panned out the way he's hoped for, Elijah Moore.
Oh, yeah.
I'm noticing a trend here. Dumb decisions and first names. Elijah Moore in the Egg Bowl. Pretending to be a urinating dog in the end zone, moving the extra point back, missing it, and costing them the game. That's maybe one of your perfect examples of something that is incredibly dumb on a football field and insanely hilarious at the same time.
Listen, man, it's just the thought process, like, you know, when I score this touchdown, I am going to get on all fours, lift my right leg up, and urinate as if I am a dog. And then this is going to take us over the top. Like, just the thought process that went into that is fascinating.
It's like, hey, why do you want to do that anyway? Why is there a burning desire in you to mimic a peeing dog in a football game? And then why are you doing it at that juncture where the extra point is vitally important to winning that football game? It's the combination of those two things that make that arguably the most head-scratching play I have ever seen in my life. And I remember watching that game being like, if they miss this extra point, this will be the funniest thing. And as soon as that thought is in my mind, they miss it. And I'm like, you couldn't draw this up. No one is able to possibly predict this. Nostradamus would not have predicted this going into this game because it is just that much of a, like, real life is stranger than fiction type of moment.
You think that was the first time he pulled that out, or was that like his move or something? Like, I just don't see how you get there to get to that spot and do that. There needs to be a 30 for 30 behind that singular moment.
He did it so confidently that you cannot convince me, Preston Thorne, he didn't practice it for a week. I'm fully convinced Elijah Moore during practices, instead of maybe going through extra drills or going through jugs, he's like, you know what? I want to score a touchdown in this game. And I'm going to pretend to be the Mississippi State Bulldog using the bathroom on the football field.
Whew. Yeah, that's not smart football.
No,
that's not.
That's premeditated. It's premeditated to the point where that is first-degree football stupidry, right? Like, you know, like the difference between like a first-degree and second-degree murder is like as if it's premeditated or not. If we're ruling on stupid football plays, first degree.
Well, I listen. I know we work for the home of the Gamecocks, Elijah. I would be remiss if I didn't say our own Dylan Stewart had a moment which goes very, very high on the list also last year, right?
Yep.
Very high. So much so that we had to have a special edition of the early game and be like, hey, man, this is not good. We cannot be doing these types of celebrations on the field at any time. This is terrible. So we can laugh at everybody else, but we have to look in the mirror ourselves also.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, that one infamously so. And it wasn't just like the celebration of, like, you know, shooting finger guns at a quarterback or something, which you can't do. You can't do that. He brought out the biggest gun possible, the biggest imaginary gun possible to shoot Jackson Dart with after he sacked him, already in a game where you are just getting pummeled.
Yeah, we made the nationwide news after that game. The combination of the fake punt and that we all like to forget that game. That a lot of dumb football during that particular game.
There was dumb football teach tape all over that football game. Oh,
yes.
If you needed the Gamecock dumb football teach tape, that's the game that you get it from. But we learned from it, and that thankfully the rest of the season went pretty well. Learning from your mistakes, mightily important as not committing them. Those were dumb mistakes on a football field. Sometimes dumb things can be said on message boards. Message board mayhem is next, and somebody actually might have made a point. I don't know. I'll let you decide next here on the early game.
Several tie-ups to be mindful of. Atlas Road at Garner's Ferry Road. Also 321 at Glen Road. I-20 eastbound at exit 73. That would be 277 there on I-20 eastbound. In Lexington, Old Cherokee at Silver Creek Drive. That's just down from Old Chapin. In downtown Columbia Park Street near Laurel. And Two Notch Road at South Lake Drive. Also a report of an accident. Going to see some scattered pop-up showers today, just every so often. Same for tomorrow, a couple afternoon or evening thunderstorms for Sunday. And we'll be playing really between about 82 and 84 the next couple of days. Kind of holding steady right now, 71 on the early game.
Let's indulge in a little bit of mayhem, shall we? Brought to you by the Miles Agency. It's Message Board Mayhem. And we've got some good stuff here today, Preston Thorne, because it ranges from the paranoid to the possibly logical, agreeable. I don't know. I'm going to let you decide. We're going to start off with that one, right? Everybody here, I feel like in terms of football villains in Gamecock land, Eli Drinkwitz is pretty high on that list. From the brash nature of his personality, from his ability to beat the Gamecocks every year until this past year, and having a last name that is easy to make fun of, like Dorkwitz, right? I know that's a Preston Thorne favorite. It's apparently a favorite of VolQuest, too. So this is from VolQuest. But there is a parallel, a comparison here that is made. And here's the headline, or the subject. Diego Pavia is the Eli Drinkwitz of SEC QBs. And this is where he elaborates. Quote, dude is so annoying that he's basically just Dorkowitz 2.0. Marginal success paired with massive bleep talk and sound bites. Everything seems like he's just trying to get clicks on Twitter or something. He threw for over 200 yards 3 times last year and acts like he's the second coming. I somehow find myself rooting for Bama to stomp them into oblivion this year, which is just a crazy thing to think about given that it's Vandy. End quote. Is a point made?
Well, I think there's even more points to be made because I haven't watched the SEC series on Netflix yet, the Any Given Saturday, but my understanding is that Diego has tried to make his star turn in this particular series.
Mm-hmm. He's saying he saw an opportunity to gain a little popularity and might have been a little more performative than he normally would be.
That's what it feels like from the clips that I'm seeing and the buzz that he's getting. It feels like he was like, hey, this is my shot. So, yeah, I could definitely agree with that because he does talk a lot.
Now, my agreeance with the post is not with the same vitriol that clearly comes through in that post, because I don't hate Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's a really good villain for this football program, and I think he's the perfect type of guy to cheer against, and I think he makes a really good heel, if we're using wrestling terms. But I honestly do like the irrational confidence that both of these gentlemen display.
Yeah, listen, it's fun. I think both of them are fun. And I said, Eli, he is one of the few coaches that actually said something worth thinking about at media days. He's always has an interesting soundbite. We just don't like him because he's been taking us to the woodshed for forever, seems like. And so, yeah, we just have a personal issue with him. But if he was somewhere else in the college football universe, I don't think I would have as big a problem with him.
No, I don't think so either. And it kind of makes them what they are, right? Like Diego Pavia has no business being a starting quarterback in the SEC coming out of high school. None.
Correct.
And his attitude is what helped get him here, right? And it's a perfect fit for a school like Vanderbilt that has no business competing at the level required to win in the SEC. They have no business beating Alabama. Ever. I don't care if the quarterback is Diego Pavia. I don't care if the quarterback is Jay Cutler. I don't care if the quarterback is the, second coming of Dan Marino. Vanderbilt football has no business beating Alabama, but they did it, right? Mm-hmm. Zero business doing it, and they achieved something that felt impossible in Nashville for a long, long time. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say Missouri has no business winning the SEC. That's a football program that has had some success previous from joining the SEC. But Eli Drinkwitz, in his irrational confidence almost, makes it feel like there might be a point made in the Post. I don't completely disagree.
I don't completely disagree either. And again, I can't talk out of both sides of my mouth where I say I want dudes to be entertaining. I'm tired of cookie cutter answers and then get on people when they actually have a personality. So I'm cool with it.
And then in terms of other things, like this isn't a take I necessarily agree with. I don't think it's as egregious as maybe some people may think, right? This comes from the Big Spur. Someone says, let's leave Shane out of this discussion of who is the best SEC head coach. And he says, I'm thinking Elko. Might be joking, but Elko might be one of the most underrated coaches in college football, and especially in the SEC. So while I don't think he's the best by any means, I certainly don't hate giving somebody like Mike Elko, who I genuinely believe is a really good football coach and a program builder, and I think that was the absolute correct hire Texas A&M could have made. I will give our message board poster here some props.
Elijah, I think you've learned enough about me and my football philosophy, my football preferences to probably understand that Mike Elko's my type of guy. He's a guy that I'd be like, I wouldn't be mad if he was the leader of the program that I cheered for, just because of his philosophy, his sort of tone. I like a lot of things about Elko. So I don't. From looking at it, I definitely think he's underrated. I don't know about the best in the SEC, but he's definitely somebody who fits very well in the conference.
And now last post here, Preston Thorne, are you ready for some expert levels of paranoia?
Let's go.
Do you like accusations of espionage?
Is it football season? We're here.
Oh, buddy. Oh, it is. This is on Tiger Rant. And the headline says, Clemson spying on our practices? And the post says, how are they so fast on the trigger of the misleading information campaign? There's only one explanation. Spying in practice.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I was going down a trail where apparently sources said that Garrett Nussmeier was hurt this week during practice. Turns out that was absolutely false, but there were sources that said that, and I was on one of the I think it might have been on Tiger Rant or something like that. So the message boards are firing up. We are getting close to the season.
Honestly, message boards have never been hotter right now because it created a rumor that spread like wildfire and had to have almost every single person on the LSU football beat say publicly, Garrett Nussmeier is not seriously injured. That is a rumor. And I think on the postgame show yesterday, Jay Phillips was reading something that compared it to the rumor that Paul McCartney was dead. Long time ago. And anybody that believes Garrett Nussmeier, and right now, because I think we can all clear this, Garrett Nussmeier is not seriously hurt. And I'll have to give you, if you believe it, I will give you the same discussion I had with a buddy of mine, a close friend who I love dearly, who tried to convince me of the Paul McCartney actually died theory. And after listening to it and entertaining it for way too long, much longer than I ever should have, I said, buddy, I'm going to give you some advice. Take that phone, press the lock button on the screen, take a deep breath, and put that phone in a drawer for about 12 hours. Think about what you just said, walk around outside, then you can get your phone back.
And listen, hey, this is what message boards are made for.
Yes, it absolutely is. But they in mid-season form. I would say they're absolutely in mid-season form. I know who else is in mid-season form because he's in postseason form, always. That's my man Lou Bezjak from the state newspaper, because a week from today, we have Jamboree season. It's here. The high school football season's ramping up. We're going to talk to Lou on the other side and get the latest as we get ready for the high school football slate to begin here in just a few short weeks, next here on the Early Game. It's not just back to school season, but if you have some kids that are high school football players or even middle school football players, they get hot and sweaty and really dirty, and they come home, and it will leave some signs that a dirty, sweaty high school football player was walking through your home. A lot of people can relate to this. It does leave a trail, and that's where Zero Res is here to help you out with getting everything clean, and they've got a deal for you. Limited time, so act quickly, because when you get 2 rooms of carpet cleaned, and you mention my name, Elijah Campbell at 107.5 The Game, you'll get 2 additional rooms for free. Just ask about this BOGO special. Again, get 2 rooms, get 2 rooms free. Ask about the Zero Res commercial cleaning services, because they are the best at the best by using their no soap lingering to attract that dirt that the kiddos may be bringing inside with them. Call them now, 803-262-4020, or schedule online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
Ellis Road at Garners Ferry Road. Also, we're looking at Highway 321 near Glen Road. I-20 eastbound at 277. Park Street near Laurel Street in downtown Columbia, an accident there. Two Notch Road at South Lake Drive. 2 more to let you know about. Wildwood Lane near Ridgeway Road. That's kind of more in the Lugoff area. And in Lexington, Old Cherokee near Old Chapin, closer to Silver Creek Drive. And as we mentioned, that forecast, a couple pop-up showers are possible today and tomorrow. 82 for the high today, 84 tomorrow, and holding at 71 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Been talking about some deals here today, like my friends over at Zero Res. We have a deal here with us, the craft beer card. Right now, it's only $59. So you save around $300 by buying this thing.
I can do that math.
Yeah, that's easy. And you guys do it so I don't have to, because I will do it incorrectly, right? I will absolutely do that incorrectly. So if that sounds great to you, because it sounds good to me, just go to 1075.com. Click on Sweet Deals. And again, we did the math for you, so you don't have to do it. If you ask any of my high school teachers, they would tell you that my math skills were atrocious. When it comes to high school football, we excel in that a little bit more around here. And to talk about that, our man Lou Bajak from the State newspaper joins us right now because it is almost Jamboree season. I believe most of them will start, a week from today. Am I correct?
Yeah, Jamborees will be next week. Actually, some a little bit this week. Some are doing Jamborees. Scrimmages, last night was the first official date for scrimmages for for public schools. So was able to take in one last night, and there'll be more on Monday, and then Jamborees next Friday, and then the opening week on August 22nd.
And one thing about this offseason that I've noticed, Lou, this isn't, like college football or the NFL where there's just a ton of a roster turnover by, people stealing each other's players. But there is a legit coaching carousel this offseason. There are a ton of different faces, different names in the head coaching position, especially with a lot of schools around here. Out of all of them that occurred, the most intriguing to Lou Bajak are?
Say Perry Parks going to River Bluff. Definitely would be one. Norman Washington at Spring Valley, and Stephen Burris at Westwood will be my three of my top ones for sure. There was 13 coaching changes overall in the area out of I think 36 or 38 teams. So basically a third of the schools around here changed coaches.
It could be a lot to keep up with. I mean, that could be something that would even be hard to just compile in terms of just keeping up with the coaching carousel, because it seemingly, once a week it felt like I saw somebody was taking another job or anything like that. So there's been a lot of changeover. Which schools are those maybe benefited the best from being able to bring in a name that is a proven winner? I know Perry Parks at River Bluff was definitely one of the ones where I immediately had my ears perk up a little bit just because of his pedigree.
Yeah, and he won well. He did well at Ridgeview, and went into college coaching, was at Charlotte, and then Coastal. Now back in the Midlands to the high school ranks, and River Bluff coming off their winningest season in school history. So that makes it a pretty good start. They did lose a lot from that team, so it's going to take a little bit to rebuild. But I think that it was a good hire, and just see how he will mesh with. It seems like everything's been good so far. Hopefully, get to see them next week. Like I said, Burris at Westwood, coming back to Westwood, where he had his wife had Todd, and he's familiar with the area, and he did a good job at Lamar. You talk about Norman Washington at Spring Valley. An alum trying to break the school's losing streak, which is over 20 games. So hopefully he can turn that around. I think Stuart Young leaving Saluda after winning the state championship there and going to Lexington, I think also is going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Corey Helms, also a former Gamecock, going from Cardinal Newman to Pelion, is also another good move.
Yeah, a very intriguing move. Excited to see what he can do with that program. On Friday nights during the fall, Justin Hall and I, who host the high school football scoreboard show, we like to anoint one region every year as the region of death, right? It's kind of like in the World Cup where you have the group of death. We like to kind of identify the region of death where it is just a gauntlet week in, week out. If you have to assign a region of death this year, which one would that be?
It might be again. I mean, last year I think it was Dutch Forks region, with Dutch Fork, Chapin, Irmo, White Knoll, River Bluff. We said Chapin. I mean, I would kind of lean towards that, or the region with AC Flora, Camden, South Point also. I know R&E is going to be a little bit down, but you have Dreer in that, and But I think that region also is pretty good. But I'll lean with that region in 5A with Dutch Fork and River Bluff, Irmo, Chapin. I mean, it's a great coaching region, great talent. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good battle, I think, between Dutch Fork and Irmo again.
Because it always feels like it's Dutch Fork versus everybody else, but they have a lot of competition in their own region. And even in Dutch Fork's down year in 2023, they found a way to still win the state championship, right? That's the type of program it is. The toughest competitor for them this year is going to be whom?
In the region or in the state?
In the state.
I would say the upper state right now, probably Spartanburg or Burns. In their classification, they'll play Spartanburg. They actually open up the season with Spartanburg on the 29th of August. I think the lower state, I think Somerville. I think if I was early projection, mine would be Dutch Fork, Somerville, maybe in a rematch for the state championship in Division I. I think those are the two, but it's going to be tough. Watching Dutch Fork last night, they got these two defensive ends, Julian Walker and Jaden Worth. I mean, it's going to be tough to score on this team. I know they're breaking in new quarterback, Jackson Knotts, but they've added some key weapons, a couple from Chapin, Stone Furry, and Coleon Martin looked really good last night. Offensive line got a rising star in Brody Lorenzo, who's a sophomore center, who I think will be climbing up the recruiting ranks in the next year or so. You're going to be hearing a lot from him, starting as a center. I think he started as a freshman last year, and he just looked pretty good last night.
And I'm sorry, Lou. I didn't hear you. Who did you say was going to be that contender from the Low Country again? I'm sorry. My phone. I must have been breaking up. Who'd you say that was again?
Somerville.
Gotcha. Okay, I just was making sure I heard you correctly. Okay, thank you very much.
Just for emphasis, yeah. There might have been a been a connection issue. That's really the only thing I can think of that would make Preston want to ask.
Yeah. I think his ears just perked up. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Lou Bajak from the States on with us right now. Lou, last one for you. I love giving the smaller schools, the small communities a lot of love. So I want to ask you, if there is one team, if you're just telling me, give me a viewership guide for a team to watch that is in classification 2A or lower, so just 2A or 1A, which one should I be invested in?
Well, it's diluted normally. I think Fairfield Central, I think, has a really good chance. They're losing a lot, but they got a kid that's going to Duke, Jaden Boyd, a speedster. I think plenty of weapons on defense. I think Fairfield Central definitely is one to watch. If you go in 3A, I would say maybe Newberry. If you just a little, I would say Newberry also going to be a team to watch as well this year.
Let's Lou Bajak from the State, at Lou at the State on Twitter to follow along with his work. And if you like keeping up with scores at high school football on Friday nights, obviously you should be listening to this station while also watching Lou's Twitter feed because we watch that a lot. And then Lou comes on and joins us. So be locked in with Lou during the season. Lou, appreciate your time as always. And then we will see how long it takes for us to get into the season before we ask you about Aaron Rodgers.
Hopefully it's a good question about him.
And that one is TBD. That one might not be a winner for the offseason. Lou's a winner. We'll give our winners for the show to round out today's early game next. We're about to give our winners here on the early game, but I got to give you one of my biggest winners in general, especially when it comes to defeating your concerns and anxieties about tax issues. None other than the Ecton Law Firm. Look, they have been the best of the best at understanding the challenges that the IRS maze can present to you or your business. It doesn't matter if it's personal or business related. The Ecton Law Firm is here to help, and that team that they have, that John Ecton has assembled, perfectly qualified to offer you one of the most important things in life that I think we all desire: peace of mind. If this is hitting home to you, give them a call, 803-771-9800 because the consultation is free. So I'll give you the number again, 803-771-9800. Or you can always hit them up online at ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Mike Singletary requested winners, and we're going to give it to him. The winners of today's show, which is really funny considering a lot of the plays that we've alluded to on today's program, talking about what constitutes smart football, usually aren't winning plays. But because we got to invoke the name of Leon Lett on today's program in a radio show in the year of our Lord 2025, I can't help but on a day in which we talked about dumb plays, making Leon Lett the absolute winner of today's show.
Yeah, Leon Lett, the rarest of two-time all dumb play offenders. Legend in his own right, 2 Super Bowl champion, multiple, awesome NFL player, but obviously that's going to be his legacy. I was remiss to call out the young man's name, but since we're talking about, hey, when would we ever else call out Jamar Brown's name on a telecast 3 years after he finished his eligibility at the University of South Carolina? Jamar Brown, come on down. You're a winner for today.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We got you. A 70-yard fumble return touchdown that was overturned because you did not cross the goal line. Let that be a lesson from here until eternity.
Yep. Oh, and in terms of, we haven't gotten to talk about this today, but this is my chance to squeeze it in here in terms of winners. Winners, bad football teams and the stranglehold they have on elite pro prospects, because Archie Manning has allegedly said that Arch Manning will return to Texas after next year, which I don't know if the feelings of a 21-year-old can change by next week, let alone an entire year. And I think people are assuming that it's going to be that way because the Saints are a, by and large, favorite to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year, or have the number 1 pick. And we all know what happened to Archie's career, which was completely ruined by that franchise. Now some things have changed since the 60s, but they're still really bad. But the reason I have bad NFL teams as having a stranglehold over these prospects is because, buddy, you can sit out a year. They're going to be bad again the next season. They're still going to be bad, right? You can sit out.
It'll just be a different bad team.
Yes, it'll be a different bad team. There's a bad team always waiting. And it always annoys me that there's a storyline, and this happens in every sport every single year. Oh, a player's not going to go to the draft, or he's going to come back here because they don't like who's going to be picking. Teams that pick number 1, hate to break it to you kids, pick number 1 for a reason. Because they're the worst team in their league unless it's a lottery system like the NBA. But in the NFL, there is no lottery, so the worst team will be picking number 1. They'll be doing it this year. And just because you sit out doesn't mean they're going to change the rule. They're not doing it for you.
You're going into a bad situation. Last year we heard Caleb Williams was trying to do this, and we'll see how that works out. Sorry, Jim. But that being said, my winners. I give another winner this week, and I'm going to give 2 right here. 1 for producer Jensen, and 2 for our engineer Randy. Elijah, you might not remember the hell we walked into on Monday morning, but we've gotten through this week, and Monday was a doozy. I got to give the winner out on Monday. Had to make sure that we shouted out Jen and Randy for keeping us on the air, because Monday morning was a doozy, to say the least.
Well, that's very kind. Yes, it was a little interesting when there's no power to the board. That's kind of an important element to have to keep things going. But
especially when we're 5 minutes till we're supposed to start.
Correct. But every day's a challenge, and it's fun. But you guys roll with it, and that's very helpful too.
It was Murphy's Law Monday.
We got it done.
Yep. 100%.
We got it done.
Which
I
wild
appreciate
enough. That feels like an eternity ago. That was just 4 days.
I know, that's crazy.
I don't know if it's that way for anybody else, for you listening. I don't know if it's that way for you too, but it felt like Monday has been ages ago. And I feel like the closer we get to football season too, and the more I keep staring at this countdown clock, the more further away sometimes it will feel.
100%.
Just moving like molasses.
Hey, are we going to have some maybe possible depth charts over this weekend? We got a scrimmage coming up. Are we going to have some?
The most wonderful time of year.
Is this going to be happening this weekend?
Oh, next week might be depth chart week. Depth chart week. Not Shark Week. Okay. It is Depth Chart Week. My goodness, I cannot speak, and I almost backdoored my way into a folly of my own. But I think next week that is something we have to look forward to. We have something to look forward to that this week, because next week, because this week we were talking a lot about how this team is judging themselves, and we should judge them that way too. Oh, what a week! Jen Jensen saved us all. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. The hero, Jen Jensen, as always. We'll talk to you Monday morning at 6 a.m. The Extra Point with Tyler Head is next.